start the meeting and just let me know once it's all up and running, please. Right, I think we're good to go, Chair. I will make a start. Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Thomas from Vale of Glamorgan Democratic Services, and welcome everyone to the meeting of the Shared Regulatory Services on Wednesday, 26th of March at 10 a.m. Before I hand over to the Chair, I'm going to go through some general housekeeping, etc. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording will be archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please use the remote raise hand function? When invited to address the committee by the Chair, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating in the meeting. Please also ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat option is primarily for raising technical and similar issues. So finally, please could I welcome all committee members, officers in attendance, and to anyone else watching the live meeting broadcast. And I'll hand back over to you now, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. Welcome to the meeting, everyone. We'll start with part one. That's apologies for absence, item 1. Councillor Maxine Lewis has unfortunately been unwell and is unable to attend this morning's meeting, and we wish her well for a speedy recovery. Are there any other apologies for absence?
No, the rest of the committee is all here, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. And item 2, minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 19th of February 2025. Can I have, do we all agree that it's accurate, that we have an accurate record of the meeting on these minutes? And could I have a proposer and seconder, please, to, if we agree that they are?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you. You, Councillor Drake, yeah. And a proposer? Oh, if I propose, then maybe.
Yeah, that's fine, Chair.
That's my opinion. Lovely. Yeah, Chair. Item 3, to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interest and the Council's Code of Conduct. Do we have any declarations of interest? I'll take that as a no then. And going on to reports, you'll be aware that an urgent item has been added to the agenda for today's meeting, and I'm happy to hear the audit of the 2023-24 Shared Regulatory Services financial statements under agenda item 6. That's the items in which the Chair has decided are urgent. I will suggest that we change the running order of this morning's report by bringing forward that urgent report at agenda item 6. That means the Audit Wales colleagues are free to leave the meeting after this item has been concluded. So if we start today's reports with item 6 on your agendas, the audit of the 2023-24 Shared Regulatory Services financial statements. So I'll hand over to the head of finance for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm covering for Matt this morning because he's in another meeting, and I really appreciate you taking this as an urgent item. I think that will put us in hopefully a really good position to go into the 24-25 closure accounts, which of course are just round the corner. So there are a number of recommendations as part of this report, and because although you've got a copy of our version of the amended accounts in front of you as part of the appendices, and that's still subject to kind of final checks by Audit Wales colleagues. So we have asked for a delegation to the head of finance in consultation with yourself as chair to make any final changes to the accounts that are identified by Audit Wales as part of that process. There are a number of other appendices as part of this report. So we have a copy of Audit Wales's report and their ISA 260 that I'll be handing over to audit colleagues to run through. We also have a copy of the Audit Wales audit inquiries at Appendix C to this report as well. And that covers matters such as fraud, governance and related parties. And in completing that document, we liaise with our internal audit colleagues and they carry out a couple of audits. They carried out a couple of audits in 23-24, also with our legal colleagues as well to make sure we've got that kind of return completed. But that's also in front of members for consideration today. In terms of the accounts, I think I highlighted when we brought the accounts back in June, that there were some kind of challenges in terms of completing the accounts this year. But what I thought it might be helpful today for members is if I hand over to Audit Wales colleagues to go take you through that audit report and the kind of issues that they identified. And if Chair, if you're happy, if I could come back in at the end just to, I know there are some concerns highlighted as part of the audit report around some of the delays in completing the audit. And I just wanted to pick up on that in terms of highlighting to members how I propose to address that going forward into the 24-25 closure of accounts. So if you're happy, Chair, I'll hand over to Steve at that point. Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Gemma.
Okay, thank you, Gemma. And thank you, Chair. Thank you for accommodating this item and also shuffling the agenda around. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. But just to introduce myself, for those of you who haven't met me or don't remember who I am, I'm the audit manager responsible for the delivery of the 23-24 audit of the Joint Committee. So I'm here today really to run you through the report and talk you through the main findings and also answer any questions you might have to help inform your approval process of the accounts this morning. But by way of introduction, I think the key thing to flag is we've completed our audit, hence the reason I'm here today. And this report really, I guess, is here to summarise our findings to help inform and support that approval process of the accounts. So I'll take you through the main messages of the report to just to sort of flesh that out a bit, really. But the overarching main message is, should you approve the accounts this morning, subject to any amendments which Gemma referred to, which might follow this morning, hopefully nothing significant, hopefully nothing at all. But the main message is we intend to provide an unqualified opinion on the accounts. That's a clean opinion, which is a good outcome for the Joint Committee. And now we've completed the audit. Obviously, I say obviously, it's unusual for there not to be some issues to report back. And this report is a vehicle really for bringing those matters to your attention. As I say, the key thing in this report is to inform your approval process. So it's important you're clearly cited on all the audit findings, both the good, being the unqualified opinion, and the less good. But the key thing is the overall message is it's an unqualified opinion, which is a positive. So I'll run you through the report briefly. So page 10 of the report, of our report, confirms that there aren't any uncorrected misstatements, which that means basically that all the issues we've identified have been resolved and corrected by the council, by the Vale, which is a positive, albeit there have been a number of adjustments and they are summarised at Appendix 3, which I'll touch upon at the end of this my presentation. Page 11 then refers to two additional matters that we need to report to you. The first of which is in regard to some of the pension fund figures within the accounts. The essence of this particular commentary revolves around the fact that the pension fund, that is Cardiff and Vale Pension Fund, of which the SRS is an admitted body of, provided incorrect information to the actuaries. Therefore, that in turn meant that the pension fund figures provided to be included within these accounts were also not correct. However, we are satisfied that this error is not material. So we've taken a pragmatic view in conjunction with the finance team to report this matter rather than ask for the joint committee to incur additional costs obtaining revised pension fund IS 19 figures from the actuaries. Obviously, that would generate additional costs for the SRS. And as it's not material and it is a highly estimated value anyway, and it will be addressed as part of next year's figures, as I say, we've taken a pragmatic view that just to report that issue. So that's included here today for your consideration. The second, I said there were two matters to report here. The second one reports to an issue Gemma just touched upon, really, and the issue she'd like to sort of comment on at the conclusion of my report here. And that's about the delays we anticipated on, we experienced on the audit, which meant the audit process took much longer than what we initially anticipated. One of the reasons, we're reporting this for two reasons, really. One, with the hope we can resolve this going forward, because we're at a position here within Audit Wales whereby, and council bodies for that matter, whereby prior to the pandemic we were on a good sort of cycle, I guess, in terms of completing audits. Like traditionally, this audit would have been completed prior to Christmas, and we're trying to get things back on track and working with councils to do that. And completing this audit, well, me being here today at the end of March, was later than what I expected, to be totally honest with you. And we're looking to sort of get better engagement, if I can frame it that way, to sort of ensure a faster and smoother audit process. We can get everything back on track. And the other aspect of this, which could be an issue, is the fact that because the audit was protracted, it was very much stop-start. The total cost of the audit was higher than what we estimated in the bill, in the audit plan. Now, the total consideration of this hasn't yet been quantified or considered by the audit director, but I'm just raising the potential at this stage that there might be an additional audit invoice, and we'll discuss that with Gemma and Matt, and I'm sure they'll challenge that if we are in that position. So I'm just raising the potential for that at this particular stage. So moving on, the other third key thing I want to raise, key message from our report, is the fact we've raised a recommendation this year. Now this echoes similar recommendation we had in regard to last year's audit, and that concerns related party transaction disclosures. Just to ensure really the note is as accurate as it can be, and that robust procedures exist to sort of support that process, and also a robust audit trail exists to support the note, the disclosure note. I'm pleased to say this recommendation has been agreed with management, but we'll follow this up again as part of next year's audit to sort of ensure all has been implemented as agreed and expected. And the report concludes really by including a number of appendices. The first of which is a copy of our audit opinion, which confirms the unqualified opinion, which we intend to give once the accounts are approved. Second appendix is our letter of representation. Now, this is a letter really, in essence, signed by the committee to confirm your satisfaction with the accounts and also to confirm the approval process. We'll need this signed letter to support our certification arrangements. Appendix 3 then is a summary of the various audit adjustments, which, as you can see, whilst none of them are material, there are quite a number of adjustments to the accounts. And fourthly, Appendix 4 is the more details on the recommendation, should you wish to understand that a little bit more. But I'll stop there, and I'd be happy to take any questions. That is, unless Gemma wants to sort of come in regard to respond really to some of the issues I raised in that report.
Does anybody have any questions? No? Gemma, do you want to come in now then?
Oh, thank you, Chair. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of the delays that Audit Wales have encountered, absolutely a kind of regrettable situation. And if I could deal with the recommendation first in respect to related parties. So, Steve's absolutely right. We have had this recommendation previously, and I think due to some of the challenges we had around kind of long-term sickness, and some of the other kind of resilience issues we had in the team last year, this was kind of missed. I mean, we have taken and acted on that recommendation straight away. So we have already updated and confirmed with the senior management team the related party declarations relating to the 24-25 accounts, in updating them for 23-24 as well. And our intention is to send that kind of top-up information that we require from members of the committee relating to 24-25 very shortly. So certainly by the end of this week. So if members could oblige in terms of completing those returns by the end of April, that would be really appreciated on our part. In terms of the delays that were encountered, I don't want to labour it too much because it sounds like I'm making excuses, but obviously we had a new general ledger that was implemented at the Vale, so it was our first year closing the accounts on that. We had some long-term sickness in the team, and I think we're in a really good position now to go forward into the 24-25 accounts with strong working papers and a good understanding within the team. What I need to pick up on my side are a couple of issues. So I'll be liaising with Audit Wales about the timing of the audit, because I think certainly our conversations with Audit Wales are about seeing the closure of the accounts and the audit as one project. So really keen to get that audit moving forward in kind of July, whilst it's already fresh in our memories, alongside the main council audit, if that's at all possible. And I also need to think about resilience on our side. So Tyler's done an incredible amount of work alongside some quite complex budget setting as well. So I think that was some of the kind of unfortunate timing of the audit this year. And obviously we very much only have one accountant supporting SRS. So I certainly don't want to be in this position going forward. So I need to think about some resilience and maybe some additional accountancy support for Tyler, so that we've got cover in case of any unfortunate eventualities going forward. So those are kind of how I intend to address some of those recommendations coming out of the audit for this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Gemma? Yes, Ruba, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for those reports. I think, Gemma, you've covered, some of the issues that I would have raised from the audit report. So I just wanted to, there's one of the things to consider were the misstatements, for example, and I just wanted just a little bit more background about that, if that's possible.
Absolutely, through you, Chair. So some of the adjustments were purely around having the correct working papers for the 22-23 accounts. So there were some misstatements arising from that. There was some judgments around the timing of grant income. So that's probably the most significant misstatement. And that affected the kind of usable reserves balance. So that affects the bottom line of the SRS account. So that's probably the one I would go into the most. And that was a very late award of a grant in 22-23. So I think we received the email in the latter half of March. But that grant did relate to 22-23, 23-24, and so needed to be accounted for as part of the 23-24 accounts. Now, we are proposing, as part of the amendments to the accounts, that amount is ring-fenced within the SRS's usable reserves, because that grant was given to the SRS for a specific purpose. So some of that grant income was in relation to the regulatory changes in terms of the Offensive Weapons Act, I think, and I'm sure Helen and team will come in and correct me if I'm wrong there. But of that work needs to be undertaken in terms of awareness raising. And so whilst we have corrected the accounts to build it in as a debtor, and then a corresponding adjustment on the usable reserves of the SRS. We are proposing to ring fence it within SRS to fund that awareness raising work that needs to be undertaken in accordance with the business plan that's being communicated to the Home Office. Is that helpful, Councillor?
Brilliant, thank you.
Any
Thank you,
other
Chair.
questions? Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions for you? Look to the recommendations. There are 6 recommendations. What I'll do is, if this is okay, to read them all out and ask for a proposal and a seconder at the end. If anybody has any comments on each recommendation, on any of the recommendations as I'm reading them, then please put your hand up if you want to discuss anything. Thanks. So recommendation 1 is that the Shared Regulatory Services 2003-24 Statement of Accounts be approved, signed and dated by the Chair of the Committee. 2, that as the amended Statement of Accounts are subject to final checks by Audit Wales, delegated authority is granted to the Head of Finance, Vale of Glamorgan Council, in consultation with the Chair of the Committee to approve the final amendments to the accounts. 3, that the letter of representation to Wales Audit for 23-24 be noted, agreed, signed and dated by the Chair of the Committee. 4, that the report of the appointed auditor on the audit of Shared Regulatory Services for 2003-24 be noted. 5, that the Shared Regulatory Services Joint Committee is recommended to approve the response to the Audit Wales audit inquiries and Appendix C. And 6, that the Shared Regulatory Services Annual Governance Statement 2003-24 be approved, signed and dated by the Chair of the Committee, the Chair of the Shared Regulatory Services Management Board and the Head of Shared Regulatory Services. I can see no hands up, so I assume you're happy with that. And could I have a proposer and a seconder to accept these recommendations, please?
I'm happy to propose that, Chair.
Thank you, Ruba. Yeah.
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Pamela. Yeah, thank you very much. And then we move on to the report of the Director of Environment. Oh, thank you. I'd like to thank Steve for giving us the report and Gemma for your input. You're excellent. Thank you very much. Reports then of the Director of Environment and Housing. That's item 4 on the agenda. Shared Regulatory Services Overview and Update Report. So Helen will present the report and bringing in the following officers. Gemma Jones come in again, and Christina, Will, Lane and Jason Bale. Helen, over to you, I think.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Quite a brief overview and update report for members this morning. It's the March meeting. We've brought all the statutory reports, etc., to you over the course of the year, but hopefully you will find the service updates that we've included in this overview report of interest. So I'll take members, if I may, to section 2 initially, and just a brief look at some of those human resources issues that we look at each meeting. And starting with the sickness absence, 5.75 days per full-time equivalent person overall during Q3. So looking at the table, you can see that is an increase on where the sickness absence rate was in the same quarter for last year. But actually, if you look a little bit closer at that figure, you'll see that within that, some really encouraging news that the short-term absence rate has increased quite markedly by 35% since the same quarter last year. And when you look then in context, going back over a number of years, the overall sickness rate for Q3 in 24-25 was largely in line with what we've seen in previous years. Members will recall, it was only last month at the extraordinary meeting that agreement was reached on budget for next year. And at the moment, work is underway to actually deliver the saving that was agreed. And as I've outlined previously, we're looking at exactly how we deliver that through the deletion of 3 vacant posts and an increase in our income generation and cost recovery largely. 2.5, I think is worth noting and celebrating the fact that the shared regulatory service will reach its 10th anniversary, who would have thought, on May the 1st. And I think this is something that we can reflect on in the annual report that we'll present at the AGM in June, is a real sort of celebration and reflection on those 10 years. How the service, we strongly believe has met the very reasons for its foundation, as itemised there in 2.5. And I think looking back over those 10 years and some of the huge changes that we've seen in the world, not least EU exit, COVID pandemic, and more recently the cost of living crisis and other upheavals in the world. It is quite an achievement that the shared service continues to evolve and meet the needs of the 3 partners. So I'll pause there if there are any questions, Chair, on that first part before passing to Gemma for the financial position at Q3.
Any? No questions? No. Yeah, carry on.
Lovely. If I can pass to Gemma now for 2.7 and the financial position at Q3.
Thank you ever so much, Helen and Chair. Liz, Mark, if one of you would be able to share my slides, please, for the monitoring, that'd be great. Thank you.
If you bear with me a moment, I'll just try and get those up for you now, Gemma. One moment.
Okay. There aren't very many slides, so I'll fly through them relatively quickly. But of course, if members have got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Okay. Right. So if I start talking, oh, there we are. Perfect. So if we could just go on to the. Oh, sorry, Liz, I'm not able to see them, but if I just start talking anyway for now. So in terms of the Q3 overspend position, we're reporting a projected overspend of £166,000. The majority of this is within authority specific, so reporting an overspend of £122,000 within authority specific services and a £44,000 overspend from core services. Now, this is very much an improved position when we compare with the position we reported at Q2, and I think we had quite challenging savings for 24-25. Sorry, I almost forgot what year I was talking about for a moment then. So the overspend position has decreased from 76,000 in Q2 to 44,000, and that's largely because the pay award was finalised and it was slightly less than we had forecast as part of our monitoring in year. So that's been apportioned across the partner authorities. In terms of the main reasons for overspends, some of that is to do with some overspend in animal services. So we've got a £13,000 overspend in animal services, and that's due to an increase in unfunded vets and kennelling charges incurred as a result of animal welfare seizures. We also do have some overspends reported in terms of some staffing pressures. So we have talked in previous committees about some of the staffing pressures in the food service. So that's forecast to overspend by 65,000, and that's due to some of that agency cost usage. We also have some additional staffing costs within housing services, so forecasting a £66,000 overspend. Health and safety communicable disease service sector, also forecasting an overspend of 35,000 due to a temporary increase in staff costs and business support. And then that's offset by underspends against pollution services and trading standards.
Sorry, Jan. Liz has come up now. The screen should be coming up. I don't know if you want to prompt her to which slide.
Oh, yes, please.
you
If
want
you
to go
could
to.
just go to slide 4, please. I'm about to go on to slide 5. So lovely. So in terms of the authority specific, as you can see, although we have an overall position of £122,000 overspend, and that's improved slightly because there was the correction of a finance error in respect of the port health cost. So that's been picked up and amended. So what we're seeing is a kind of favourable variance against the Bridgend authority specific budget and the Vale. And then we've got an overspend against the Cardiff authority specific. And that's largely due to that historic funding position. So if you could go on to the next slide, please, Liz. The majority of that overspend against Cardiff relates to the licence section. And that's, something that we've seen in previous years as well. So those are the main points I was going to pick up on the Q3 monitoring report, but happy to take any questions.
I've been very quiet today, Gemma. Thank you. No questions on that?
I can't see any hands raised either, Chair.
No. Thanks, Helen.
Chair, if I could pass to Christina and then to Will to pick up on the performance monitoring at 2.8. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen, and morning, everyone. I'm not proposing to share a screen for reporting performance. I think that's pretty problematic, but just for members' reference, I'm referring to Appendix 2, which is the colourful document contained within your papers. So that's entitled Shared Regulatory Services Quarterly Performance for Q3. Generally, this is a good picture for us. You'll note that page 1 for my services area, in terms of category A and B, food premises, we're all green. In terms of category C, food hygiene premises, you'll note we've got 2 amber ratings there, but that just relates to accessibility issues in terms of carrying out those inspections. So I'm not seeing that is going to be a great issue for end of year for us. Likewise, just 1 amber in terms of new businesses for food hygiene, but I'm anticipating that we will reach target in terms of those results. Broadly compliant figures on the next page is all green, and you'll note that the results are very high in terms of broadly compliance, which is encouraging. In terms of broadly compliant PI, that's an assessment of how well the businesses are doing when we're out there on inspection, rather than our completion of those premises. And then, of course, trading standards high risk is all green, and just an amber and a red RAG rating there for trading standards. But that you'll see from previous results, we are making good progress in terms of catching up with that backlog for the trading standards new businesses. So from my perspective, Chair, no issues to report on here, very much on target for year end, and hoping for some good results that we'll be reporting on. So unless there's any questions from anybody from my area, which of course is food hygiene, food standards and the minimum energy efficiency, happy to pass to my colleague Will.
And thank you, Christina. I think from all of us, the excellent results this year. Well done.
Hi, Chair. Morning, everyone. So very briefly, despite being an extremely busy period for both our licensing and pollution control teams that I manage, and that's in light as well of the special procedures work that I know Christina's going to give a little update on later. I'm pleased to report the vast majority of the performance targets in the document were met and are green rated, which I think I like to sort of emphasise is due to the team's hard work. So very well done there. The one exception is the one-day response target for responses to commercial and industrial noise and air complaints, which are slightly under target. This was partly a workload issue. It's a very busy period, but is also linked to the way that we log complaints in time for the target to be met, because it's a challenging target. It has to be a response within 1 day. So that element of that process is being looked at with a review of the business admin process. And hopefully we'll be able to make that login process a bit leaner so that we can improve that performance target. But in general, really happy and happy to take questions. Otherwise, I'd hand back to Helen or Christina to carry on with the report.
Any questions, anyone? No, thanks, Will. And again, thanks to your team as well.
Cheers now. Bye.
Hi, Chair. Back to me again, I'm afraid. So I'm at paragraph 2.10, and that's in relation to the Food Standards Agency audit. So just a quick mention here, members will all, of course, be aware that at the beginning of February, the 3rd and 4th, we were subject to a Food Standards Agency audit, a pretty grueling 2 days, may I add, and lots of work in preparation for that audit as well. So the purpose of that audit was really looking at the SRS's performance against the COVID recovery plan. We've obviously briefed you as we go along that journey in terms of the recovery plan. And of course, they look in detail in terms of our food hygiene, food standards and port health functions, looking at our procedures, our premises files, officer authorisations, for example. So we are awaiting the final report from the FSA, and of course we will bring the outcome of that back to you. But this was just of note really for that piece of work that's been carried out, and of real great importance is to thank the teams involved in that piece of work. Audits are not nice processes to go through, and I have to say the team managers, lead officers and the food supervisor were of great assistance to us in terms of that very busy 2 days. So a huge thank you to the food team in terms of the efforts that were made to accommodate those auditors.
Christine, I know that we're waiting for the report, but I was just wondering, what was your view of it? What was the feeling of how it went?
Well, we are aware that in terms of a food hygiene perspective, that's been really our focus for the last couple of years, and certainly getting ourselves back on track and really utilising some contractor resource as well, because of course we're aware we have a shortfall in that area. So in terms of food hygiene, I'm confident that that report will reflect the work that is going on in that area. But I'm also conscious that in terms of food standards, there's still work to be done, and I think that will be reflected. So over the coming years, our efforts will be going into that food standards service area, bringing that up to the same level as hygiene. I am mindful, though, Councillor, that we do report that we are under-resourced in this area. So it's very much that the teams do the best that they possibly can. But for me, it's looking at systems of how we align now with the food hygiene areas. So, lots of work has been done, still lots of work to be done. But in particular, in terms of food hygiene, I'm confident that the report will be a good one and reflect the work that's going on. You can't take away from the size and scale of the food service in SRS. We are, not like some of the other food services in Wales. We're very much a hugely busy service with over 6,500 food businesses. So this is really a churn of work that is undertaken. So I'll await the final report, but as I said, I think there's still work to be done.
Very good. Thanks again. Yeah, Rupert?
Really, to touch on that last item, Christine, because I'm also aware that audit team brought up some last minute questions and issues on Friday before they came into the office. So I know how hard you've all worked, and I'm looking forward to that report. And I think it will reflect the hard work that your team have been doing for the last year, certainly, but obviously before then. And I think it's important to remember that SRS does cover, it's covering 3 authorities, and as Christine said, over 600 food outlets. That mean, as we know, is under-resourced. So, I'd like to also to say, well done to the team and to Will's team, because I know how hard you're all working. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I think the next one is also with me. So I think you're staying with me for a little bit longer, I'm afraid. And that is in relation to a health and safety intervention project that was undertaken this year. So this next couple of paragraphs really is for information purposes only. But Chair, I'm sure this will be of great interest to you, given your background. But members will be aware, in terms of the work that we carry out in health and safety, that's very much informed by a document that's given to us by the HSC at the beginning of the financial year, which is the LAC 67-2, with that details areas of concern or where information intelligence has been received that requires attention. So in this area, that was identified as distribution and storage warehouse premises in the area. And the full report for this, I must add, is at Appendix 3. So that will give the full detail, and it is an interesting read. So you will see that 27 premises were in scope as part of this survey, and really looking at compliance in terms of the Health and Safety of Work Act. Interestingly, 7 improvement notices were actually served in terms of these premises. And again, the failure of one of those businesses is subject to some further investigation by us. So paragraph 2.16 here just details really some of the contraventions and issues in terms of those warehouse facilities that were of concern. That's detailed in terms of mezzanine safety, racking safety, safe systems of work, maintenance of electrical systems, and duty to manage asbestos. So a project definitely worthwhile given the outcomes, but again, just to note that is very much a focused intervention as required or as detailed by the HSC. So I'm probably not giving it the kudos that it needs, but full detail there in Appendix 3 for officers to and members to look at. And one final piece from me, Chair, and that relates to special procedures. So I'm at paragraph 2.17 here. So we brought you along this journey of special procedures, members, and special procedures really sort of covers all three of our OM areas. Will, of course, has the licensing function of this regime. My team carry out the health and safety visits and necessary enforcement at the other side of the licensing application. And then you've got Jason's area then carrying out the training as an approved trainer for this regime. So very much speaking on behalf of all of us here. So this new regime came into force from the 29th of November, and it covers the 4 aspects of acupuncture, body piercing, electrolysis and tattooing. So a previous regime was in place, but that was reliant on bylaws for local authorities. But this is an all Wales licensing regime, and really the scope of that scheme is to look at improving hygiene and safety standards, ensuring the consistency across Wales, obviously helping to protect health of clients, and of course having those licensed individuals for consumers to be able to check a database and make informed decisions where they have these necessary procedures. So we're in a transition phase currently, and where previous people undertaking these roles were asked to submit applications by 28th of February. Those prescribed deadlines are, of course, by Welsh Government, and of course, those applications that have been received, you'll see some detail at the time of writing the report there from Will's teams. We, of course, received the licence application. That's checked by the licensing teams, and then the necessary checks in terms of on-site at those premises by my teams in health and safety. Now, it's of note that SRS really is engaged in special procedures for all of Wales. You'll be aware that I chair the Health and Safety Expert Panel for Wales, and one of our team managers is the secretary for that group. We have developed a consistency group where we meet on an all Wales basis, again striving for those consistent standards across Wales, ensure that we've got parity, and of course that practitioners are on the same level playing field, no matter where those practices are happening. And I have been appointed as the link to Welsh Government to report any issues of consistency in, but also get some advice where needed. Now, the purpose of this regime, or the intention, was that, of course, lots of the aesthetics industry is really developing in communities, and this is sort of seen as the benchmark standard. With the scheme then will look at sort of elaborating what practices are part of that licensing regime. So part of that really is identifying those are the practices that are going on in terms of aesthetics, and identifying that to Welsh Government for sort of a further development of this scheme and other areas that could be included. So interesting times at the moment, very much a absorption of what is quite complicated legislation, and of course, through implementation of new legislation, sometimes on the ground and for the trade, there are some unintended consequences in terms of complications. So we're working our way through that at the moment, but it must be said that, of course, this new regime came in without any further funding to the team. So this is extra pieces of work, and a huge piece of work for our team. So again, really wanting to pat on the thanks for the effort and the work that is going on in the teams at the moment to deliver this piece of work, but obviously playing such an active part in leading the way in Wales on this as well. So thank you to the teams yet again.
Well done. I mean, there's plenty of work gone on there, isn't there? And I mean, it was good to see, in the warehouse and distribution that you'd picked up lots of areas that definitely needed addressing. And I'm surprised to see still, asbestos not managed well. But there you are. All the work has gone into that, I think. And but any questions, anyone? No, doesn't seem like. There we are. Well, I think you're coming back
Yeah.
in.
Thank you, Chair. So it's just a very brief reminder, really, to members that the building safety agenda is still moving forward. And I guess the headline takeaway is that the legislation, the new building safety bill, is still likely to go, as it's been committed to by the government, the Welsh Government, committed to go before the Senedd, before the summer recess. So there's quite a lot of work going on, obviously, to prepare for that. Now, SRS are represented on a group of stakeholders looking at some Welsh Government initial assessments that have been made on the impact of the bill on local authorities, who are obviously going to be the building safety regulators, and the potential cost to councils due to additional regulatory impacts across, quite a wide range of disciplines, from our building control teams to our enforcement teams. And the initial assessments, although they're not being publicised yet, that those may be quite significant. So that's a very important ongoing piece of work which we're involved in, to make sure that hopefully the bill is introduced with sufficient resources to allow local authorities to implement it. Time-wise, it's difficult to predict, but the implementation date is unlikely to be prior to 2027. That could change. And there's some suggestion as well that there may be some phasing to the legislation as well, with the higher risk category 1 buildings, the legislation dealing with those being introduced first, before the category 2 buildings are looked at. But that's just supposition, and that hasn't been confirmed yet. So the other element to the report that you have in front of you relates to the Joint Inspection Team. Now, they have begun their inspection programme in Wales, with inspections having taken place in Cardiff, Swansea and Wrexham, in various types of buildings and tenures. They are formulating a programme for this year, and we're in consultation with them on that. The initial sort of spread of buildings were almost like a pilot for the JIT, for the Joint Inspection Team, and we're in the process of sitting down with them to looking at some of the outputs of those inspections and where we move forward on that. It is likely that additional enforcement work will arise out of the JIT inspections, and the SRS, together with the other main local authority with the largest proportion of category 1 high-rise, have met and are processing a bid to Welsh Government for some additional resource to assist in this work prior to the introduction of the bill. So there's quite a lot going on with the building safety regime, and it is ramping up a bit. And so we'll plan to report back to committee on both of those aspects later in the year when we have some more clarity. So that was just really, Chair, a very quick update on building safety. Happy to take questions if there are any, or pass over to my colleague Jason, who I think is going to take you through the air quality part of the report.
Can't see any hands going up. Well, thank you for that. I mean, again, an awful lot more work going on, new work, and hopefully we will get the money.
I think that's certainly something that you can rely. We are definitely pressing Welsh Government on that.
I'm sure you are, yeah. And
Okay.
thanks for the
Thank you.
again. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks. Well, good morning, Chair. Yeah, so I'm just taking members through two aspects of work in my areas. So looking at paragraph 2.5 on air quality. So members will be aware that we report annually as a statutory duty under Part 4 of the Environment Act and produce annual progress reports looking at the local air quality management undertaken across the three individual authorities. And these reports all went to the respective cabinets for approval in Q3. So in Bridgend, the 2024 annual progress report, which reports on the 2023 data, indicated that apart from the one air quality management area within Bridgend, which is on Park Street, all locations did not exceed the NO2 air quality standard, which is 40 micrograms as an annual average. However, we still do have 2 exceedances within the air quality management area on Park Street, and those levels recorded at 43 micrograms as the annual average. But it is an improving sign on Park Street, and we've seen between a 12 and 17% reduction at those locations since 2019. The plan that went to Bridgend also gave an update then on the air quality action plan for Park Street. That was previously approved at the April Cabinet meeting, whereby Cabinet did agree to retain some measures and the review that we will keep an eye on the levels of Park Street. And if we start seeing sort of deterioration in air quality and not seeing the improvements as we are expecting to get compliance there in 2026, we will have to discuss with Cabinet and members as to whether we look at those retained measures and implement further improvements on Park Street. Turning to Cardiff, and again, an improving picture for Cardiff, given that the 2024 report indicated that at the 135 non-automatic locations that we monitor in Cardiff, all of those recorded concentrations below the 40 micrograms air quality standard. And again, an improving picture in the 4 air quality management areas in Cardiff, and particularly in the Llandaff area, where we did have some concerns in the previous year because we were close to the 40 micrograms at one location there. However, the values there did improve in 2023 and are continuing to improve in that area. And the report also then gave an update on the works for the air quality direction, which is specific to Castle Street, and indicating that finally the final plans for Castle Street have now been approved by Welsh Government, and detailed designs and works are ongoing with a view that we'll be going out to tender later this year, and construction will eventually start on there. And then just an update on the Vale of Glamorgan. Similarly, there's no locations where we monitor in the Vale of Glamorgan that exceed the nitrogen dioxide concentration. There's 53 locations, so all of those did not exceed the 40 micrograms. And again, we've just done some additional monitoring locations in the Vale using real-time indicated monitors just to try and improve some of the data we capture in the Vale, and those 3 locations have now been installed. I can pause there if there's any questions on the air quality for members, if they've got any in their particular areas. If not, I'll move on to the next paragraph there as well.
No questions, I don't think, Jason.
No.
Thank you.
So just an update to members on some responsible dog ownership partnership working we've been doing with South Wales Police. So we were approached by the Mid Glamorgan sort of police unit earlier last year in 2024, where they were looking to undertake a pilot program of the LEAD initiative, which is the Local Environment Awareness on Dogs. And this is an initiative that's been undertaken in a number of parts of the countries, and also Gwent Police were leading on it. And it is seen from DEFRA as the best practice in terms of dealing with antisocial behaviour of irresponsible dog owners, really. So the scheme provides a proactive long-term approach solution in dealing with those antisocial behaviours from dog owners who simply just allow the dogs to stray, continuous straying or barking, and really allows sort of the engagement with the police, local authority officers, and sort of social landlords to deal with this in a proactive and informative way before engaging any sort of enforcement. So the South Wales Police do lead on this initiative. However, our animal wardens have been supporting them when they've been conducting joint visits when it has to be been escalated. So the police under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act take a phased approach. They issue an initial warning letter and information pack to any owners that have been reported to them. And if it's in a rented social property, they will liaise with the rented social landlord, who will also be informed. The police give us 6 months informal process with the owner. If they get reported again for any same behaviour, the police take a next phase approach, which can then get escalated through community protection warning letters, and eventually can lead to a community protection notice. So the South Wales Police have used this as a pilot project and are now agreed that it deemed a really successful project, really good example of partnership working between ourselves and, as I said, the housing associations. And they are now looking to roll this out both to the Vale and Cardiff local areas as well. So wardens working across the whole SRS region will become involved more widely in this project as well, really. And just really want to thank the team for their work on this and working with South Wales Police on it, really. So it's a really good initiative, and hopefully can have some good outcomes for communities that face any sort of antisocial behaviour from irresponsible dog owners. And I think that's my section done, Chair. So if there's any questions on any of those aspects, happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'll pass you back to Helen.
I think, Jason, but excellent on the dogs. I think, we wanted more enforcement for a long time, really. So it's great to have, that the police are doing something now.
Yeah, I think they've, as I said, they've seen the success of it in other areas of the country, and it has sort of had that improvement. So yeah, we're really keen to work with them on this and it rolling out more widely across SRS.
Lovely, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Well done.
Back to me, Chair, just to round off this report. So we're at 2.36 now, and the Trading Standards Impacts and Outcomes report for 2023-24. And members may recall that we brought to the December meeting the report that we had at that time, which was the combined England and Wales report. Since then, the standalone Wales report has been issued, and I wanted to bring this back to members so that you are aware. And in December, one of the stats that we highlighted in the report item on this impacts and outcomes work was the fact that across England and Wales, for each pound spent on trading standard services during the course of 2023-24, the equivalent of £8 of detriment was prevented. And really interesting to see in the standalone Wales report that the equivalent detriment prevented in Wales for every pound spent is actually just over £12. So we could say that trading standards in Wales is really, really good value. The Wales report features two case studies of the work done by SRS, and that's around our minimum energy efficiency standards work and also our work in supporting business. The report and the infographic are included in Appendix 4 so that members have the full information. But just to pull out one little statistic to demonstrate the impact that SRS has in that Wales picture. In 2.38, I mentioned that in the course of 23-24, a total of 46 years of prison sentences or suspended prison sentences were handed down as a result of concluded prosecutions in trading standards cases. And in the same period, the equivalent figure arising from SRS trading standards cases was 14 years of prison sentences. So again, it's a really good demonstration of the impact that SRS has on that Wales picture. Very happy to take any questions there, Chair, before moving on to the very last part of this report.
Any questions? No?
Okay, so moving to 2.39 and Appendix 5, where we've included details of each of the cases that concluded in effect since we last met. 12 have concluded, an awful lot still in the pipeline, a lot being adjourned and not finally concluding. But I hope at year end, when we report back to the AGM in June, that there will be a lot of really interesting cases which are currently in the pipeline actually concluded. So very briefly, you'll see across those 12 cases, again, a very, very good range of different regulatory functions have been addressed. So underage sales of vapes, 2 food hygiene cases, an animal welfare case linked to dog breeding, illegal vapes, underage sale of alcohol, a private rented sector housing case, taxi overcharging, food labelling and odour nuisance. So a really, really good mix there. A couple just to flag, they're all, an awful lot of work has gone into each of these cases, but just to flag a couple of them. At number 4, we have a rogue trader case, which was one of the cases that had been in the pipeline for quite a while, and that concluded in December with a custodial sentence of 5 years and also a criminal behaviour order against the rogue trader, which is very tightly written, which means that he's restricted in his ability to offer and provide building and home improvement services in the future, and that is in place for 10 years. So again, another very useful tool in part of that sentencing. And then one of the food hygiene cases at number 9 in the table, just to highlight the fine that was handed down in this case, which was a total of £19,360, which is really encouraging to see that the courts place such, the importance of these cases is recognised by the courts. So again, Chair, very happy to take any questions on those cases, or if members would like any further details on any of those anonymised cases, then I'm able to provide that outside of this meeting.
Any further questions? No, doesn't seem to be. Thank you, Helen, and thank all the teams, really. We've said individual ones, but we missed out some maybe. I think, the work has been, exceptional again this year, and sort of going into new areas, and, the amount of prosecutions and, enforcement that's been taken, I think is just fantastic. Well done, everybody. So is that the end of that presentation?
Yes, that is the end of that report. So just back to the recommendation.
Yeah. So the recommendation is the Joint Committee is asked to consider, note and agree the contents of this report. Could I have a proposal and seconder, please?
I'll support this, Chair.
And I'll second you if you like, if that's easier. And then we go on to item 5, which is the amendment to Shared Regulatory Services Fees and Charges 2025-26. And the schedule of SRS fees and charges was approved by the Joint Committee at its meeting in December. An error since then has been identified on page 8 of the fees and charges schedule previously presented, meaning that the amended schedule needs to be approved for implementation on the 1st of April. And Helen will present the report on this.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry to be bringing this report back to Joint Committee. It's all my fault. I put the table together and I've made these, it's one administrative error, but it has affected 3 of the individual fees, which are set out on page 8 of the schedule. It's been identified, and the purpose of this report is to bring the now corrected schedule back to Joint Committee to ask for it to be reapproved, if that's a word, so that the fees and charges can be implemented from 1st of April. The effect of the error is that what was the increase in the hourly rate for things like training, charging businesses for advice, etc., I inadvertently dropped that into the wrong fields in that table. So I think that really summarises it, my mistake, and please could Joint Committee reapprove the schedule.
I'm sure we've all made similar mistakes in the past. So the recommendation is the joint committee is asked to agree on the amended schedule for SRS fees and charges for 2025-26 as set out in part 1 to the annex of this report. Can I have a proposal, seconder, to agree that, please?
I'll support this, and Helen, we won't put you in detention over it.
No. Andrew, will you second?
I'm happy to second it, Chair, and all is forgiven, Helen.
Yeah. Lovely. There we are. That's, and then we go on to part 2, which is the where the public and press may be excluded from the meeting for consideration. But we have no items under that, no items that the chair's decided are urgent. And so that we can close the meeting. Thank you all for attending and participating.
Thank you very much.